So this week, or the past week, or the past 2 weeks, I've been working on a migration from Gradle, not Gradle, sorry, from Maven to Gradle. It's been a rough week, right? So one of the reasons why is because, I remember when I started, Maven was the thing. Like, it used to be simple and very straightforward, dealing with the whole XML. And then I got exposed to Gradle, and then I'm like, oh, shucks, man, this is so dope. The caching that you can do with Gradle, the fast builds, like it makes a lot of things easier to do with Gradle. But anyways, one of the reasons why I'm moving it is because it's standard. Most of the projects are running on, they're using a build tool, Gradle. So I wanted to standardize most of the things. So because this was one of the projects that was, what we call legacy or ancestor, something that was built on Maven. Yeah, so that's what happened. So this is why I was moving it. But anyways, why am I talking about it? Because it's frustrating the living hell out of me. I just ran out of words, man. But anyways, I'll come back to the coffee session, guys. This is your boy Xxtractz. But I'm here to figure it out. The moving and the migrating was so simple. It was simple. Like, it was a simple thing to do. But the problem is, it runs locally, but as soon as I deploy it into one of the environments, when I make an API call, it just hangs. It never leaves the application or hits that external API. It works on my machine. That's what has been happening. So basically, it works on my machine happened to me for the past week. So now I had to restart the whole procedure, just do things step by step and just cut it bit by bit. I'm not gonna do the whole thing in one chunk, and I'm just doing it bit by bit. So now let's get into the matter of the day. So I've been reading through some of the comments that you guys have been posting, heading on the comment section. Really appreciate it. And one comment that really stood out for me is that in terms of the salaries, the video about the salaries, is that because in South Africa we are working in the, dev spaces, in industries that are non-technology industries, we are not the main people. So basically, the pay is not the same as a person who's a main person. For example, if you are in mining and you're an engineer in mining, I don't know, as a chemical or something like that, or mechanical, those engineers tend to earn, or civil, they tend to earn way more than a developer in a mine because they are the core, right? Same goes to an auditing company. An auditing company, if they have CA there and all of those guys working there as part of their staff, obviously they're the main guy. They're the main stream of revenue. So they tend to earn more money because they are helping the business make money. We are just the background technology resources that is used to build and maintain software instead of them having to pay someone else to do it for them. So that's why that also impacts the salaries, which is something that I found to be very interesting because the reason why salaries cannot be the same for a tech startup company versus, corporate or industry role. It's one of those things. It's one of those things because it's not a specialty role. So yeah, I think that is my 2 cents on it, but that is not something that I really wanted to engage on. But I just got triggered that why not talk about careers or possible industries that one can simply move into or get into. You don't have to be restricted to my current one or the one that your neighbor does or the one that you see people hosting hackathons on. It can be anywhere. So in this video, we're going to be diving deep into different industries that you can tap into as a software developer, engineer, or DevOps. Any of these guys in this career fields, they are more than welcome to just, look into these different industries. The industries that I'm going to be talking about, or the industries that I'll be diving into, they're based on the probability or the higher chances of you getting a job or getting hired currently. So I think number one on that list. So before I do that part, this does not constitute as an advice, but it's an opinion that one can look into, consider, or decide that, okay, this doesn't add value to me or this will add value to me. But I'm not telling you this is what you should do and this is what's actually needed. It's not all factual, it's all based on an opinion. So based on my observation, right, most of us want to go into tech spaces. We want to be language specific. We want to be specializing in a language. We want to do all of these things, but also we forget that there are people that, they just want to have a job. They just want to get a job. So this video will help you, but not help you at the same time, because I might bash some of the things in there. But one of the biggest employer at the moment is your fintech companies. So fintech companies like your Yoko, your State, your Time Bank, your Luno, your Ozo, your Valar. So most of these companies are based in SA. So they are the biggest, I think biggest employers. And when you think about biggest employers, you think of, okay, how are they biggest employers? It's because they're startups. So most of them are, I wouldn't say they fall under startups, but because they are in the fintech space, they have influx investments pumped into them. And remember, they are an online platform based, so they're using technology. So they're using a software. If you have to think of Luno, crypto related, right? If you need to look at Ozo, it's a payment gateway. Those are the fintech companies that one needs to look into. And in terms of language or the stack that they use, I've seen most of their job descriptions, the JDs. They're specifically using Python, and they are predominantly Python and TypeScript, and Go there and there. But yeah, I think Go. I think between the three, Python, TypeScript, and Go would be your go-to languages for you if you want to find yourself working at these companies, because they are basically running on new technology. Majority is running on new technology. And because of that, and also Python is very easy for someone to learn. And you have an advantage, in terms of that, because they use Python for backend services, for data, for data scientists and everybody, for machine learning, scripting. There's quite a lot that they use the Python for. So you won't be limited compared to some of us who are now doing Java. So I'm not saying don't do Java, but I'll get onto the Java part on the next point. But just want to wrap up the whole fintech. Fintech is the place to go to. You're most definitely going to get hired. You just need to be technically be good. And yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to talk too much into it. Number two, everyone likes this one. So the enterprise or banking space. I call this the Java country, because if you look at any enterprise currently running, it's running on Java. Like most of the enterprise companies in SA are predominantly Java. So if you want to work in the banking space, I think Java is your go-to. Yeah, if you're looking to work in a bank, in an insurance company, in a big corporate, any of these guys, Java is your go-to with more specifically the Spring and Spring Boot framework. That's where most of the Java people are. That's where the pile of people are. But I don't want to sideline C#, because C# is also, I'll say number two. Most of the systems are still running on C#, mainly because of the Microsoft ecosystem that the company inherited, and there's quite a lot in terms of that, more around the specifications of having the Microsoft ecosystem. For example, they will be using what's the one? The one with the weird name, Azure. Yes, they'll be using Azure for their cloud related stuff. And yeah, I think Java is the go-to language. And if you want to go to companies that are more aligned with Microsoft, you can go the C# route. Look, it's not a formula. It's more of what are you comfortable with? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to work on so that you can become better? Okay, cool. So there's something that we recognize as SaaS, so software as a service. So there are companies in SA that are building software as a service and then selling it to international companies. So if you want to work in those companies, you probably need to learn. If the company is older than 10 years or 10 years plus, they're probably still running on C Sharp. Majority of them are still running on C Sharp. And this is one a little bit of a big industry in terms of the ecosystem with devs. But C Sharp dominates most of these older, SaaS as a product. So you think of a Microsoft 365, your CRMs, and all of these kind of things. But right now, what's booming, it's TypeScript and Node.js in the modern SaaS product. So TypeScript again comes back again, and Node.js. Once you understand TypeScript, it's easy for you to learn Node.js because there's a little bit of similarity, a little bit. It's not completely. But this is for newer companies that have been established since maybe less than 5 years ago. So the advantage of them using, Node.js and TypeScript is, they both run backend and front end with the same tech stack. So learning those languages can be a very advantageous, can be an advantage. Yes, that's what I meant to say. And Python comes in here also because Python plays a major role in the data space, especially when they're dealing with heavy data. Again, Python pops up this side. So meaning that learning Python and TypeScript should be something that you consider if you want to work in a fintech space or a SaaS environment. So here comes something that most of us are familiar with. When we heard the word e-commerce the first time, your digital agencies, your retail. So basically, this will be your 60/60, your Take-A-Lot, your TFG Bash. These are some of the companies that are in the retail space. And one thing I can tell you, for the big guys, the guys that have been in the industry for a long time, like your big, your big retailers, we're looking at your ShopRite, your Checkers. You want to find yourself learning Java there also and C Sharp. Plus, I think there's something called SAP also. Yeah, but this is not an industry mostly for junior devs. I think this is for mostly people that are experienced. Because if you're working with SAP, yeah, it's something else. But for digital agencies and your e-commerce builds or websites or whatever you can call them, Shopify stuff, right? It's mostly PHP and JavaScript, and often around something called WordPress for those who are not new, those who are ancestors. So your WordPress, your WooCommerce, and yeah. So yeah, I think that is that. But my honest opinion on that, this is definitely not a playground for junior devs. If you're coming into the industry, look, PHP is for, I want to say PHP is for ancestors, but it's not. But yeah, you're most likely not going to make it there unless if you're good enough. And yeah, and definitely the salary range is nothing compared to the fintech and the enterprise. So that's something that you would want to take into consideration before you decide on getting into this retail or e-commerce space. Last but not least, we're going to have this guy. This is something that I don't have much insight on, but I just did a little bit of research, which is the mining and industrial and corporate IT. This is your mining and big industrial companies in SA. So I have a friend, or I know a friend that works in one of those companies. Yeah, what I know is it deals with C Sharp, like a lot of C Sharp. So you want to be a C Sharp or .NET. And because, again, there's data, Python comes in and plays a major role. So Python looks to be common culprit, yeah. So if you want to get into it, so this is something that you need to look into, learning Python but yeah, those are, I want to say, top industries that one would have to look into before you consider looking for a job and before you consider, specializing on a specific stack, because this helps you, create a cleaner or a clear path before you actually get to the end goal, which is you landing your dream job as a developer. Despite all that's going on right now, if your end goal is to land a job as a developer or software engineer, that's something that you need to consider. So these are the top industries that you need to consider. Where would I start if I was to start all over again? If I was to scrape off all the experience that I have and restart, like if I'm a 20-year-old who just left varsity, or 21 or 22-year-old just left varsity, I'm looking for a job. I think based on what I've been mentioning, what I've been playing around, not the conversation, but the main tech that's been playing around is Python. So Python would be first. I need to learn Python. Guys, I know a lot of guys are against, some people don't like Python, but Python gets me into the fintech space, gets me into the data space, gets me into the AI work. Like Python, and those are the three big segments that are growing currently. So I wouldn't want to miss the opportunity for that. And I'll add TypeScript, React. I know that AI is here, but knowing those languages gives you an advantage, because you can simply build a full stack, and you can simply build a full stack, and yeah, and also in terms of cloud, you take in an AWS fundamentals alongside it. So that's something that I would want to do, right? But if my goal was to specifically work, at a bank or a big corporate, then I would definitely switch that to Java and Spring Boot in Azure. So that's it. 2 languages, 1 cloud, one clear target industry. I think one thing that we always do as individuals is we try to learn everything. All I can leave you with right now, today, is that find yourself a combo, pick a combo that works for you, that can be able to help you learn quicker, and that matches what you want to find, where you want to find yourself working at. And then go deep, man. And yeah, but anyways, drop down any comments, suggestion. I love the engagements, by the way. So really enjoyed some of the comments. They're quite insightful. So you can drop down any comments, any story, anything that you want to share for someone who's going to be, reading through the comments, and they're probably in the same situation that you were 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago. It will make them, make decisions quicker. But from me to you, cheers.